All right, we're back. This one's going to be a quick one. We're just doing a bit of coding. We're coding something that I call what's missing. Let me show you the final product. The idea is we're going to be able to enter some type of string, and our program is going to output the letters of the alphabet that are missing from that phrase. So if I said something like hello world, right, it's going to tell me that these letters are not in my input string. All right, if I run this again and do a different test case, I'm going to do the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. This, by the way, was a phrase that they used to test typewriters early on because it actually contains every letter of the alphabet. Okay, so what that means is when I run this one, I'm not going to see anything because it has every letter, and we see that there. Pretty cool. All right, let's get started. I'm going to do a new project by going to File, New Project. We're going to have to go next, and I'm in my little demos folder, so I'm going to switch over to my principles folder, where I will create what's missing. I'm going to ensure that I have a subfolder because I like to keep my stuff organized, and this window is fine. I'll expand my folder, right click on the SRC, make a new Java class. I will also call that what's missing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and plug in my main method, and we're ultimately going to create a method here. You don't have to, right? This unit is not particularly about methods, but we've learned so much, right? We actually learned how to make some early on. We've been practicing them with Coding Bat quite a bit. So I actually think that we can do it. I'm going to create a method, public static. This one's going to return a string, ultimately. The name of the method is what's missing. And we're going to take in a string, which we will actually loop through. Okay, so I'm going to focus on the method, and then we'll come back and kind of deal with our main method. So this is the string that I want to kind of search through, and I care about letters. The real purpose of this whole video is to kind of show you a technique. That technique is I need to handle all of the letters, right? I need to know what letters are possible in order to know which ones are missing. So right here in the method, I'm going to create a string which I'm calling ABC, and it is every letter of the alphabet. Now, there are pre-existing ways in Java to kind of determine if something is a letter. That's just beyond the scope of this class. So here is this technique. Now, what I like about this is, yeah, we're talking about letters here, but this could be anything, right? This is highly customizable. You can create the string of stuff that you care about. Maybe it's punctuation. Maybe it's very particular punctuation. And then, so this tells me, what I care most about. Here are my ABCs. Hopefully that's all of them. If you need to see, you need to double check. A quick way is maybe to see what the length of this string is. So I'm going to do an sout on abc.length. In order for me to actually call this, I'm going to have to call it somewhere. I can do that in the main method. And this is just a bit of a test, so I don't really care what string I'm passing in. I'm going to call what's missing from my main method, passing in an empty string. That's going to create this string of ABCs, and then it's going to print off our abc.length. Now, this is currently mad at me because we're saying we're going to return a string, and I'm not doing that currently. Two options. We can change this to void temporarily, or we can return whatever. We can return an empty string. I can return hello world. I'm not actually doing anything with it right now. All I want to know is what is the length of my ABC string. Hopefully it's 26. I'm going to tell this thing to run. And just a quick check, we got a length of 26. Okay, so cool. I'm going to undo some of this stuff, right? We'll get rid of this method call. We'll come back to that. So I have my ABC string. What I want to do is loop through this string. With each iteration, I'm going to get the current letter. A, B, C, right? I'm going to get the current letter. What I want to do is ask, is this current letter in str? If it's not, I'm going to add it to some type of return string, some type of string that starts out as empty but is going to be the collection of letters that never appear in str. Okay, so let me say this again. I want to loop through ABC. So with that in mind, I'm going to create a for loop. I'm going to use the IntelliJ's shortcut syntax here, right? For I will plug in a lot of stuff for us. Our starting index looks good. I looks good as a variable name. I'm going to tab over so we hit our condition. And this is ultimately based on, keep in mind I said we're going to loop through ABC. So this is based on ABC.length. Okay. First thing I'm going to do in each iteration to kind of make things easy is I'm going to pull out the current character. The current character from ABC. This is the character I want to know, is it in str, right? So initially, CH, this character, is A, and then it's B, and then it's C. So we're looping through ABC, pulling out the current character. I want to know, initially this is A, I want to know, is there an A in str? Okay, we can figure that out using index of. If str index of. If I do an index of looking for this character and I get back a -1, that's how I know it's not there, right? I'm going to look through str using index of for the current character. If I manage to get back a -1, that means it's not there. This is like a good comment, I think. If this is true, what it means is CH is not in str. Okay, so that means I have a missing letter. What I want to do is add it to my return string. So if this is true, we're going to say RTN plus equals what it was plus the current character. Right? A reminder that this could be expanded to RTN is going to be what it currently is plus the current character. This statement and this statement are the exact same. So we're looping through our ABC string. I'm going to pull out the current character. Notice that I refer to CH here and here. Okay, so this variable is not useless, but if you want to get rid of it, you would just need to call char at here and here. Okay, so I like having it because we do reference it multiple times, so that helps clean up our code a little bit. Otherwise, you're looking at doing those method calls on the spot. So I'm looping through my ABC string. We'll pull out the current character. We're going to look for that character inside of str. If we get back a -1 from index of, that means it's not there. So I'm going to add it to my return string. It is a missing character. After the loop is over, I have tested every letter in the alphabet. So I should be good to return RTN. Okay. We'll do a couple of test cases in our main method, and then we'll bring in scanner. What do I mean by doing some test cases? Right. So if I call what's missing, let's say hello world. That was one of the test cases I gave earlier. Of note, if we include some punctuation here, it has no effect, right? This doesn't really matter. That's not characters that I really care about. So in my actual output, this just has no effect. Anyway, I'm calling what's missing. What's missing is returning a string right now. So what that means is there's a string right here that I'm not doing anything with. So if I were to run my program, we're not going to see anything, right? There are 0 print statements here. So in order to actually see this string, I need to actually print it out. So I'm going to do an S out, and I'm going to delete, and then put the parenthesis here on the end. So what we're going to do whenever our main method is executed, we're going to print off whatever is returned by what's missing, passing in hello world as a parameter. So here is just a quick test. And that looks pretty good. So notice there's no H's, no E's, no L's. Okay, I can try the quick brown fox super fast. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Right, and we get nothing because this contains all of the letters. So that looks pretty good. I just need to bring in scanner at this point. I'm going to skip straight to step 2 and rely on IntelliJ a little bit. I'll let the IntelliSense kick in. We're importing scanner. As a result, I'm going to call this bad boy input, and that is a new scanner that's going to read from system.in, the keyboard. I'm going to prompt the user with an sout. I'm going to change that to just a print. That way their input shows up right next to the message, which is, please enter a string. Now, we've talked before about how there's kind of multiple ways to get a string. By the way, I'm going to name this string something other than like str. You can use str. We could actually use any of these strings, str, abc, rtn. These 3 variables only exist in this method. That's a different scope from this method. So I could use str, but I don't want to confuse students. I don't want you to think this has to be called str because this is str. That's not the case. We can call this whatever we want. Right? I'm going to call it check. So this is going to be the user's input. Right? And in previous videos, we talked about how there's multiple ways to get strings in particular. We can take our scanner and we can use next. That is going to get the next token, everything up to a string, right? If I enter this string, we're just going to get the. That's the only thing that's being saved in. So this gets everything up to the next white space. We call it a token because it's not necessarily a word. It could be, there could be crazy characters in here, right? If you want the entire line, all of this, we're going to use next line. So using next line, I'm going to get input from the console, from the user, from the keyboard. We'll save that into our string check, and I'm going to ultimately pass that in to this call on what's missing. Right? Instead of this being some hard-coded value, it's whatever the user entered. It's check. Let's run this and test it out. Okay, please enter a string. I'd like a colon after this, please. But, yeah, let's go ahead and stop it. I am OCD enough that lack of colon, oh, I want a space too. That's enough to bug me. All right, please enter a string. I'm going to say hello world. Test it with something else. I'm going to say bye GameStop. All right, so this is the only letters that are missing from this. Notice that we are getting the stuff past the space because we're using next line. We're getting every bit of it. Right? We saw the same thing with hello world. I can say the quick brown fox. That's not everything. We're missing these letters. Okay, but if I were to use next and run the program, enter the exact same input, the quick brown fox, all we're actually getting is the. Whenever we use next, we're getting the first token. That is everything up to the first white space. And notice that T is not here, H is not here, our E is not there, Q still there because we're not actually getting it. I can further prove this by doing an sout on check. All right, check is just the, because I'm using next. If I want the entire line, I can use next line. Okay, I'm going to show you maybe a couple of ways to improve this. All right, so we're back to normal. We're good. So for one thing, this string is going to get created and destroyed every time we call this method. Now, for this particular program, the way it's designed, that's not a huge problem. But if you were to call what's missing multiple times throughout the program, maybe we get multiple inputs from the user. Maybe I do this to get the first input, then I effectively do it again to get another one, and maybe again to get another one. And we call what's missing on all 3 of those inputs within the same program. Every call to what's missing would be making this string. You can broaden the scope of this so it doesn't get created and destroyed over and over and over again. One way, which I don't recommend, is putting it in the main method and passing it in, right, as another parameter. That would add more versatility to your method. What do I mean? So we have string str. We would then pass in string, ABC. And whenever we call it up here, we would need to provide that string, which would mean that I would be declaring this here and then passing it in. Okay. So what is the advantage of this? Well, for one thing, this string would get created once, and then I would, in theory, use it multiple times. So that is more efficient. The other thing is you could change what this is, right? In this case, it's ABCs, but by this implementation, what you're checking it against is whatever string comes in here. That's not necessarily ABC. So that actually makes this a little bit more versatile. Not really relevant for what we're doing. But one thing you can do, I'm going to back it up to what we had. One thing we can do is actually declare these things inside of the body of the class. Oh, it doesn't like that. No, let's not do that. I know why. I don't want to explain. All right. One improvement I do want to potentially talk about is our program doesn't handle capital letters. Right? So if I say hello world, it thinks the H is missing. It thinks the W is missing. That is because capital letters are technically different from lowercase letters. When we first talked about this, when we first talked about strings, I showed you how they're different characters on the keyboard. So the question is, how do we handle that? I'm going to, we can Google the Java String API. I want to be able to handle case-sensitive things. There are a couple of ways to handle this. Right, we learned about the equals method. There is also an equals ignore case. The problem here is I'm not even using equals, right? The way that we're testing or looking for characters is using index of. What I really need is to basically take my string, make it all lowercase. Right? If we look at our ABC string, we're using lowercase letters. So what I want to do is take this string, turn it into nothing but lowercase letters. That way, whenever I go to search for a lowercase letter in that string, I'm able to find a match. Again, we're not using equals. So that method that I just talked about, equals ignore case, isn't actually going to help us here. What can help us is down here a to lowercase method, and there's also a to uppercase method. Since my ABC string is already lowercase, I care more about this one. This says it converts all the characters in the string to lowercase using the rules of the default locale. I don't even know what that is. It's going to make it all lowercase. If it's like punctuation, it's not even going to worry about it. So what do I mean? As soon as we call what's missing, I'm going to take the string. Right? In theory, it's something like hello world. It can be a mix of upper and lowercase letters. What I'm going to do, very first thing, is I want str to be lowercase. Okay. This is yellow. IntelliJ's a really, really smart boy. I'm going to run this. It's not quite going to work, and we'll talk about why. I'm going to first show you. So I'm going to say hello world. Oh my goodness. Okay, sorry. Making sure the microphone's actually picking me up. I'm going to say hello world and our H. Right? It says that we're missing that, even though I'm turning into lowercase. Here's something to remember. I've mentioned it a couple of times in videos. But none of the string methods actually modify the string. We actually can't change strings. What we always end up doing is making new strings. So this to lowercase method, it is not modifying str. What it's doing is producing a new string that gets returned. Right over here, this is our return types. In order to simulate the change, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say str is now equal to this. I'm going to say str, stop being what you were, instead become a lowercase version of yourself. I'm going to run this. We'll try it out. I'm going to say hello world, and notice that our H is now included. Our W is now included. Okay. Two lowercase, two uppercase, not technically part of our unit, but something I thought I would show you, and this was a good time to do so. We're going to pause right there, and I'll see you in the next one.